Good evening. How bad are Scotland? We'll answer that question and much more coming up on the Friday night football pitch. Yeah, good evening. Coming to you live from, well, I'm obviously not in Scotland, coming to you live from Gran Canaria. The other two are back home. Joined tonight by Dennis Newell as always, and Hugh Toner, Motherwell fan extraordinaire, Scotland fan extraordinaire. And actually, when Shug was last on the podcast, it's the highest listening figures we've had on the show in the number of weeks we've done since then. You've got to come top on something, Shug. Dennis, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, Cammy. How's your holiday? You're sitting there like Stevie Wonder and drag. With
yeah, listen, that's about the only act I haven't seen here.
I didn't think you'd be wearing that jersey after last week's result.
Listen, mate, I'll tell you. That was the first thing I had to hand. Shug caught me in coming out a video there just as it came online. So I think he's quite thankful I've chucked something on.
Well,
but we'll come on to last week's result later on.
You better show the badge in case you think it's light blues you're wearing today with the Rangers. It's a key jersey.
Aye, there you are. By the way, it's the only football jersey I own, so there we are. Oh no, I tell a lie, I own a Scotland one as well, but never mind, that's another story. Anyway, talking about Scotland, last week, Dennis, you predicted how bad Scotland were at the back, and last night, Scotland thought they'll make you Mystic Dennis, and to be honest, it was certainly a very poor defensive performance, I think, by certain individuals. Going forward, you said midfield were not too bad. Up front, maybe leaves a wee bit to be desired. But honestly, I'm looking for your lottery numbers tomorrow, Dennis.
You know what? It's not a statement last week that I'm proud of that was fulfilled to the point of decrying the Scotland team in relation to how bad we were defensively. And it came to fruition, more or less, if you listen to last week's podcast, more or less line and verse. How much dig into the mistakes and errors could last forever. If we look at the game itself, I thought Scotland were excellent. Now you might say, well, we still get beat. Yeah, we did. But in comparison to the Euros, I think we were back to what we were like when we qualified. We never let Poland settle on the ball. We had a lot of energy for the good part of the game. And considering the way and ease that we lost our goals, we still were chasing and harrying till the end. Now, not everybody gets flying colours because you can't win games if 8 players or 7 players in the team are up for it and are actually doing a good job, and the other 3, 4, or whatever you think is missing. And that's what I felt. Yeah. I just felt that basically no matter what we would have done in that game, I couldn't see us winning it. I knew there was going to be errors, and where did the errors come from? The exact places that we spoke about last week. Well, I look at Grant Hanley and I look at McKenna, and without sounding like an old song, the bottom line is they should not be in a Scotland jersey because they are not up to international level. And for Grant Hanley to tackle us late on in the game like that, I've seen guys down the public park on a Sunday morning having a better time of it. So the manager's got to have a right look at himself with this, because I stated last week that basically what he was bringing in was because of his injuries. If he didn't have the injuries, he would have kept with the same squad he had in the Euros, or maybe 1, 2 a push changing it. So what he brought in, and then he changed his tune during the week. He said not to freshen up. Maybe somebody's picked up on it. He had originally said, you've got injuries and you need to bring people in. But the people he brought in really didn't get a great chance. You know, you look at it and I say to myself, well, the substitutes, the boy Conway never got a shout, when I thought Dykes up front was exhausted, if that's the word. I didn't think that he gave us as much as he should have given us. Gold, Morgan, people like that, Doig, I'm looking to see them on the park whenever we're chasing the game. And we never seen that. it was as if, no, the guys that are out there will do a job for us. And the boy Ben Doak, when he come on, looked lively. I would like to have seen him on for the best part of an hour. Never got it. No chance of him getting there. Then you look at the boy Ryan Gold. Where is he? You know, you say to yourself, why are we not bleeding these people in when the game is beyond us? The manager's not seeing things that are basic. And if you can't see the basics there, I'm sorry, there's no future for us. But I'll tell you what, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. The effort and energy. That may be all by the manager, but I just feel that we're never going to win that game. We never looked as if half chances were going to be created enough that we would finish them off.
Well, I mean, Shug, I think what summed Grant Hanley's tackle up last night was Andy Ralston's reaction. Now, if you can get a player like Ralston reacting to that, you know, I mean, it was perfect. Here we go. What's happened, you know?
Yeah.
So if he can react like that, that just shows you just how naive at best and garbage at worst Grant Hanley was last night.
Sorry.
I made a comment on Twitter when somebody was talking about Grant Hanley, and the comment was, and Dennis, you'll know this, being an ex-manager, you're always told as a child to stay in your feet.
Stay in your feet, yep.
It's the basic thing as a defender. Don't dive in, stay in your feet. The attacker's going nowhere. And if he turns back, he's turning back into the field again. Absolutely horrendous. Hanley, and he realised he knew he'd done it, but he needs to come out and say, you know what, I'm finished. I don't even pick me anymore.
But he's struggling at Norwich. He said 2 games. And I said last week, because I'd looked up to see how he'd performed in the game before he came joined the Scotland squad, he was the 3rd lowest rated player in the 2 teams that were playing, and his team got turned over. And you say to yourself, is anybody that has got poor form looked upon by the Scotland manager and saying, I'm going to leave him out because he's not at the top of his game, or we're needing somebody else in there? I just look at it and say, so what's the manager doing in relation to freshness?
The problem is, Dennis, he is at the top of his game and he's still garbage. You know, let's be brutal. Let's be brutally honest. International football has now passed Grant Hanley by. He is absolute guy. You know, if it was ever there in the first place, he's definitely past it.
I've never seen him contribute to Scotland's needs in any department. You see, last night, Lebanovsky was I think he's seen better days now. The life in him just wasn't there. But you know something? Scotland stopped them playing against our back 4, and it never exposed McKenna and Hanley as much as Portugal will this weekend. And that's the fear I've got, is that when you get the players that Portugal have got coming up again, they're not going to sit off them. And, you know, I look at people, ordinary players last night could have played in the 2 central defence. I texted you last night and said if there was another 10 minutes to go in that game, McKenna would have chipped in with an OG or something like that. So we could have 3 out of the 4 of the back of them, all given the opposition the win. And I just fear for us against Portugal, because they were never tested in the central defence last night. And when they were, you could see their flaws. You know, it's poor because without the errors, I mean, if you look at it, Poland scored their goals off our errors.
Yeah, all 3 of them. All 3 of them. The first one we set off. The second one, Shug, you've got Ralston going in. He's on the wrong side and he's tackling the wrong foot. I mean, for Christ's sake, you know, I mean, how more naive, crap, whatever else do you want to be? You're saying about Hanley at school, you're taught don't dive in with don't go to ground. I was taught don't get caught wrong side and don't go in with the wrong foot, and he's done both.
And
to bring the player down.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, as much as I'm not a fan of Porteous or Suter, they are a better option to try than 2 that are not doing the job for us. So, I mean, against Portugal, he probably will go with the 2 central defenders, but Porteous and Suter, I think at least should be thrown into the lion's den, and then you can convince yourself whether that is us going forward or not. But if they're not going to do the gig, he's definitely going to find somebody else.
The thing I've got there, Dennis, is I agree with you. And I said that to one of my Rangers supporting friends last night. I goes, I've slated Suter in the past for being too slow, not up with play, out of position, passing attackers on and not covering where he should be covering. But I would rather he was here last night because he would probably run through a brick wall for you last night and against Portugal as well. Porteous, I'm dubious with him after what he'd done in the Euros. I mean, that challenge is just, I mean...
But that's the naivety that's the naivety we had last night.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying. Well. But I think he's got to change it. And he's brought in Max Johnston now. I seen Max Johnston when he was at Mull. He was at Mull since he was 12-year-old or something like that, maybe a bit younger. And the guy's a flying machine up and down that wing. He's like Andy Robertson, Tierney on the left side. He'll go up and down that wing for you, and he can defend. You don't win a championship, Austrian championship and league in the season you join them and not get plaudits for it. He get awarded a young player over there as well. So you think he must be doing something right, and he gets to sit on a bench with us and think Ralston's a better option. So and even again. Oh, well, I mean, why? Steve Clarke made I only caught a clip of it online that made he says that these guys have come in, they've really galvanised the team, they made a difference. What, to sit a bench?
To sit on a bench, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I was Ryan Golden, I'm like, no, but I'm not coming back. I'm just, forget that for a carry on. Coming back to go and sit on a bench, we're going to build for the future. Don't think so.
Again, you're talking about Shog obviously on Twitter, and you'd have seen it today. I think actually you liked the comment. Rod Morrison's basically asked, just trying to edit this slightly, he'd have had Shanks on for Dykes, Suter in for Hanley, and Gold probably starting for McLean. They've been a better team, obviously, as we lost to 3 defensive mistakes. And he's asking about right back. He's talking about maybe Kingsley or James Forrest. Now, how bad is Ralston that we're looking at? He's debating maybe somebody like James Forrest, you know, a winger at right back, you know. But
can I say
again, if Steve Clarke can't find a right back, you know, obviously fans are going to start chipping in with suggestions. And anybody obviously catching us on the live stream, please feel free to contact us in the live chat. And obviously you'll come through to the 3 of us. We can all get a look at your comment and obviously ask it on there as well. But as I said, that's Rod putting a suggestion in, you know, and it's really how crap we are at right back.
Well, I know. See, to be honest, I thought until Ralston made his mistake, and even other parts of the game, he played well. Right now, I think there's
only cost us 1 goal then.
Disasters with him, but last night I thought he done a decent enough job, but it only takes that one mistake, the same as you had Hanley, the same as you had McKenna, and the whole game, they're just marked with 0 after that. Whereas I must admit, it's probably the best I'd seen Ralston in a Scotland jersey. So it doesn't say a lot for us right now.
No, but I only made the 1 mistake then. I mean, well, that's what you're up against, you know. I mean, that's what you're looking at.
My problem is I said to you guys before we come on that I looked at a couple of stats, and the stats are frightening. How we can't play guys who's getting a game for their own team, who sits on the bench, and I'll quickly run them over. Right, we've got 3 guys starting for Norwich. McLean's played 4 games, and if he's the answer to Callum McGregor, we're in serious trouble now, by the way. Angus Gunn started 4 games. Hanley started 1 game, and he's not been on the bench for the last 2 games. Then you go look at the other ones. Ralston, 51 minutes he's played in 5 games this season. Scott McKenna, 3 appearances on loan at Las Palmas. Not a big, massive club. Las Palmas.
Only get in and see him.
That to me, it's just it's frightening to see that's our defence, apart from Andy Robertson. The rest of them, if that's the 3 defenders we've got in at the back there, we can just rip it up and start again. I've always said for years we should do what the Spanish and the Germans done. Went back to the youth setup and started afresh with that and say, see, for 5 or 6 years, don't expect anything off of us.
Yeah.
But now look at them. We don't expect anything off of Scotland anyway, but they really need... There's no use in bringing guys in. The average age of that team last night was 27 and a half. There you go. There's another stat. 27 and a half, the average age of the team. When Spain can play a 16-year-old in the European Championships. It's just...
I mentioned last week.
Oh, it's just absolutely frightening.
So how much it, Shug, is... How much it is obviously self-preservation then Steve Clarke wanting to keep himself in a job. You know, Dean McCurdy mentioned last week on the show that Scotland in the Nations League actually have a decent record, I think 12 for 16 or something like that we've won. But that's because we're one of the few countries who actually take it seriously and don't blood players. You know, so we don't take a chance. You know, we don't take a chance on guys. You know, the likes of Max Johnson. Ryan Gold gets 20 minutes. You know, bigger belief. You know, it really does bigger belief the fact that we've got a manager there who failed in the Euros. Yeah, he got us there, great, but he failed in the Euros. We were absolute garbage in the Euros, but he's scared to try unless it's forced on him. You know, he's scared to try something.
He sticks to his favourites, and it got shown last night. He sticks to favourites, and I think he came out and said that I've got to give these guys the opportunity. No, you don't. There's no loyalties in football. And I'll give you another stat that I found out. Somebody actually, I'll tell you, was it with Ewan Cameron that put it up about a striker, right? And I know he won't go down that road. Goals in the last two seasons. Simon Murray, 44 in 90 games. Lyndon Dykes, 19 in 83 games. And he's the main striker up front. Now, Simon Murray, I think, would be a good shout, just to say, go and upset, because he can upset guys. And he's proved it, because he's been through the leagues. But I'm not saying we bring him in, but hey, not that you go scary when you look at stats. That's the scary thing about it. And stats prove everything. That's but Steve Clarke, too negative for me. Far too negative. That's the only problem I've got. If we need to go and attack teams, see when we put pressure, Dennis is right. When we started pressing them high last night, Poland, they couldn't handle it. But pressurising them, make them play long balls, what you want to do, cutting up passes, cutting up play, all about the pressure. Then I don't know what happened.
But Sean, that's the problem you've got. You can press all night long. I think we've got a really good midfield, again, with the exception of McLean. And you're right in saying that if he's a replacement for McGregor, we've got real problems. Would McLean get a place in the Celtic team if McGregor was you know, if he was signed with Celtic, McLean? If McGregor was down injured, do you think he would be replaced? Not in 100 years. No. So you're looking at saying, if we can't even have an international team with the selection we've got that would match the top Scottish Premier team, then I don't think they should be pulling a jersey on. And McLean doesn't fit the bill for that. And the words you use there, and I'll use an easier word, sentiment. There shouldn't be any sentiment in football. And he's been renowned for having sentiment. And you can't have that. You've got to go by what is going to get you results. Know what you think is the easy route out. Now, he's been hammered tonight with us. He's been hammered with press. But the bottom line is, it's self-inflicted.
Yeah,
he knows that there are failings at the back. Listen, he's a right good, knowledgeable man. Why is he playing the two at central defence? To see it, and I said this last week as well, that midfield is never going to win you the game when you've got defensive failures at the back. And that's the problem you've got. An opposition is always going to get a few chances. They didn't have a lot, but I'll tell you what, they still managed 3 goals.
They had three shots on target, 3 goals.
Aye, that's that. You know, two penalties coming for defensive mistakes. So who's the answer? Who is the answer for Kenny McLean? Then are we looking at Conor Barron? Are we looking?
But again, Conor Barron got brought in because Conor Barron never got a sniff when he was up at Aberdeen. Now he's a Rangers player. Oh, you got to bring him in.
Yeah.
And again,
but again, look at that last night.
But I'm going to shout at that last night.
Sorry, on you go. You go.
Has been a Miller fan, Lennon Miller.
Yeah, I mentioned him.
I just don't. I don't understand how. Oh, he's only 18-year-old and he's to be under 21s. No, he doesn't. Just move him up.
Spain is a 16-year-old player winning the Euros, best player at the tournament, one of the bbest. You know, if you're old enough, you're good enough.
I honestly think Lennon Miller in that midfield with Billy Gilmore, with McTominay, and John McGinn. Where are you going to fit them in? That's a headache you want. You want a headache to say, how am I going to get all these guys in? But you've got to put them there. You've got to bring them on. There's no use in say Lennon Miller's a couple of years away. No, he's not.
No.
We're talking about one decent midfield player. That's all we need. That midfield, as good as you're going to get, with the fact of McTominay, McGinn, Christie, and Gilmer. I'm happy with that. I would even go with a 4 and play 2 up front, and I would run the wee boy Conway.
You wash your mouth out with soap with that suggestion, Mr. Newell.
How's that?
You're not playing 2 up front, for goodness sake. Come on, you can't do that if you're a Scotland manager.
I want 2 up front as well.
Listen, I'm all for it, but we know it's not going to happen under Steve Clarke.
Well, I would go with Conway and Dykes. Remember, you're working with the tools that you've got. And this is what we've got to realise. If the manager has spent from the Euros to now and hasn't increased the squad by fresh blood that will actually take us to the next stage, then there's 2 things. One, he's not been working hard enough, or 2, they're not there. Now, if we can look at people like McTominay, right? Where did he come from originally? I remember we used to have people that had, and Dykes as well, they weren't born and bred here, but there's grannies, uncles, and all the rest of it that makes players suitable for the Scotland national team. There's got to be some people somewhere that should be searching this out. Now, if they are, then we are really thinning the ground. If that's the best that he can do for central defence for us. And to be honest, I think if we had the central defence sorted out, just give us another striker, keep the midfielders as we got, maybe 1 in there, and I think we're no bad. Remember, we're looking at Tierney coming back. Shea Adams, I think, is injured, but he's not up to the standard of what we need.
So we're going to have 2 midfielders playing together as well at club level, aren't we?
Yeah, but I don't think we're
McTominay and Gilmer.
But if he keeps shooting himself in the foot with the defence, then we're not going to get there.
Listen, there's hope there, and there's no doubt that some of the domestic football is making his job very, very difficult. You know, if I'm thinking for the team that started last night, if I'm correct, there was 1 Old Firm player started in that team last night. Mm-hmm. Am I right? And that's Ralston.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's none really, because
how hard is your job as Scotland manager?
Yes.
If your top 2 clubs cannot produce any players for you?
Well, you've got Suter there, so you've missed him out, but he's on the bench.
But he didn't start.
That's right.
I'm talking about guys that started last night.
Yeah.
You know,
it's very difficult because the Old Firm, which normally contributes highly to the team itself or the squad, as you say, there's only a few in there, and you know, I just think that where are we going to get the players? We really need to expand that squad with quality, even if they are from China. I don't care if somebody's granny's moved to China, then the grandson can play football. Then we really need to get them in.
Get a couple of years, we can have a couple of players for the opposition last night playing for us pretty soon. You know what I mean? With naturalisation and things like that. In all seriousness, you know.
Dennis is more at shop in Timu.
Well, I'll tell you what you could do is you could stand in it. You could stand in at the English coast, and what comes off the boats, you know, ask them if they know of Scotland, and just give them automatic entry in here, and just give them a new passport. No, it's a difficult one, and I know it's very easy to slaughter the manager, but on last night's performance, I think he's deluding himself if he actually thinks that the 2 central defenders he put in the park were going to give us a result. I'm sorry, it's not worked. And
I understand what you're saying about the Old Firm not helping out, because I think that it was came out last week on the report for the minutes for Scottish young talent in the leagues. Celtic Rangers were at the bottom, and I think the Rangers was 172 minutes or something like that for last season for playing young Scottish talent through their academy. I thought, how bad is that? It's not even 2 games. You thought, shocking, absolutely shocking. So but again, those 2 are in. They need to win in Europe. Their fans are on their back, so it's all pressure for that side as well as Steve Clarke did this way. But
if we move forward, because there's been enough negativity, but as I repeat, I thought we played exceptionally well rather than the 3 blunders, which were from the poorer end of the team. How about Sunday night's game?
Oh, Christ. Well, it has to change it.
We're a wee miracle.
Exactly. I think he definitely has to change it, and obviously it's easy enough to say we have to make changes at the back. Now, I think Suter's maybe a wee bit more, as you say, Shug is a bit slower than what we have, but in terms of commitment, in terms of shutting down likes of players like, obviously Ronaldo and whatever else, I think you're better with Suter than probably either Hanley or McKenna. But it's who else you bring in alongside him. Midfield, I think, takes care of itself. And as you say, I mean, could we see him going 4-6 here? You know what I mean? And trying to sit in, playing 4 at the back and 6 in midfield.
I know he would do it, but why not change? Why not just change your formation and go a 3-5-2? Really put them in. Put them. I mean, then you could bring in Porteous, Suter, and Max Johnston. There's your 3 at the back. Andy Robertson up doing that wing as he does. Then you've got your 5 midfield and put. He does it at Liverpool every single game. Why not utilising that? I know he plays with world-class players at Liverpool, but it's not the point. When
he puts on a navy blue jersey, by the way, why can he not put a final ball in? You know what I mean? He can do it when he's up and down the left with Liverpool, put in some great crosses and everything else. Okay, he's got Salah and whatever else to aim for. And when Salah misses, he's got Alexander at the back post. But why is it that he puts on that navy blue jersey and his final ball leaves a lot to be desired? But beyond that...
Wait a minute. In Robertson's defence, he's playing with players that are a million miles away from Liverpool.
That's what I'm saying. There's the difference.
Yeah,
that's what we're saying, Dennis.
He'll deliver a ball in the box, and the players that he's playing at Liverpool know exactly where to go, and that's how you get the return. You just assume, it's a wonderful pass. These guys are working on that. So Robertson's game, when he maybe lifts his head, is go, hey, by the way, it's like a map of the Highlands in there. There's nothing there. That's exactly what he's maybe looking at. So therefore, when he's got time to dwell on it, the deliveries know exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So, I've got to make excuses for Robertson because he's the one breath of fresh air we've had in that team in the last, 7-8 years.
I do say, Shug, the difference is he's bombing up and doing that left-hand side. With Scotland, it's very slow and deliberate moving forward as well, generally.
He's
so
got nothing to
there is that difference too, yeah.
That's down to, obviously, only having one up front. I understand Dykes is good up front on his own, but to occupy 4 defenders and try and make space, to make space for a ball getting past into, to hold up for midfield to come up and assist you, clearly isn't working for Scotland, and it hasn't done for years. So how any manager can't see that and say, no, what, I'm going to go out on a limb here and go and try 2 up front. I would love to see it, and we've said it here the last 10 minutes or so. It won't happen, but I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I would like to see the boy Conway
a chance to control the midfield.
Yeah, the boy Conway up front and play with 4-4-2. And what difference is it going to make against the Portuguese? I'll tell you what it is. It hems them back when you've got 2 playing against 4. And then when the ball comes up, you have a better shout. It's against 1 versus 4. And that's why 100%. Portugal, if they play with 3 at the back, it's easy, mate. They've got an extra body in midfield or up front because they've only one man to mark. Yeah. I'm always a believer that if you take the game to them, then you've always a chance of scoring. If you sit back, then or give them an opportunity to come through you in the middle, your defence is always going to get found out. And again, I repeat, I thought we'd done exceptionally well, but we have dissected the flaws in the game, and the flaws need addressed. And my concern is he's maybe not that sure or that certain that he's got flaws because he hasn't addressed it for the Euros.
Maybe he doesn't want to think he's got flaws. Maybe he thinks everything's all hunky-dory. I mean, Dennis, you've been a previous manager, and we were been with a few good managers as well. Lambie had used to have a saying, he was very well known for it actually. He used to say, let them effing worry about us.
Yeah. 100%.
That's it.
I would think we went into that game the other night thinking that, because they were worried about us. And as I say, the defence were never really put under pressure. Every time the defence got the ball, they maybe hit the nearest player from Portugal was at least maybe 7, 8, 10 yards away. There was nobody ever shut them down.
So nearest player from Portugal was 2,000 miles away.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, I just hope that he tidies it up a bit. Same commitment, maybe a wee bit more. My only concern is, as you touched on there, Suter's just a wee bit leggy for me. And are we really just are we just changing it for changing's sake? And that's my worry.
My one worry, I think, is if we look at last night's game and what Dean McCurdy had said last week, Scotland only have to finish in the top 3 to make sure they stay in that group. I think that was the easiest game of the 3 that we lost last night. So I think we're looking very, very difficult to stay qualified and maintain our place in that top pot.
The problem, the thing is, if you've only got the top 3, I think when I listened to it back last week, I think Dean says as well that that's the downfall for Clarke, because he'll just think, I can finish in top 3, we're all right, we're safe.
No, that was myself,
I remember hearing it for last week, and I was thinking, it's the wrong attitude to have, but he is correct in what he's saying. It will be 100% what Steve Clarke's thinking. Finishing top 3, we're all right. That's it.
And out of the 3 games, that's probably the easiest of the lot that we've lost. So we're already behind the 8 ball for starting.
They're not any great shakes, and they get proved. It was proved last night with the performance. Who, as Dennis says, we were on the front foot, we're attacking, we're doing. Didn't really have any massive scares until we went, let's just light the grenade here and blow ourselves up. That was it. Just self-destruct. Aye. Yeah.
But the one thing about last night was it was a competitive game of football, and that was good to watch. After the 3 games I watched last weekend, which started on the Saturday afternoon, side wearing the blue jersey that I'm wearing, went up to East Fife, and 5-1 probably did Clyde some favours, to be honest. They were woeful. On the Sunday, sat and watched Rangers and Celtic.
Later, because
No, I'm just saying that in terms of competitive football, I'm saying we sat and watched the Old Firm game on the Sunday afternoon, and that was as one-sided as you'll watch until later on in the afternoon, when you then sit and watch Liverpool, Manchester United. And all 3 games that I watched last weekend were extremely one-sided. So as I say, at least it was a competitive game last night, that's for sure, Dennis.
Oh, it was, aye. But I think obviously moving away from that, we just have to keep our fingers crossed that Ronaldo doesn't have a field day. I know he's going to be a bit like Lewandowski, where the legs are going and it's maybe no just there. But I'll tell you what, against the Scotland team, he could cause us a lot of damage. If they play with him up front, if he goes with the same team, we're in trouble. But I hope not.
He scored his record-breaking goal the other night, so he's all right.
I can check it.
Aye, here's the open. Ronaldo gets his record-breaking goal, and San Marino got their first win in 20 years. That was what I said after the game last night.
Poor Liechtenstein.
Aye, so there we are. Can we get Liechtenstein in our group?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get anything out of Sunday's game. If we do, I'll be very much surprised. But, and I repeat, and I've said it a few times now, I thought we'd done exceptionally well, except for the errors.
Yeah. I think exceptionally well, maybe a wee bit stretched, but certainly we competed last night. We looked good in stages, and certainly it's a long, long time since Scotland's size looked better going forward than it has at the back. You know, so there is some positives to take from it for definite. If only the next game wasn't Portugal.
Yeah, well, anyway, that takes us, I think, Cammy, you'll be looking to go forward with the Old Firm game then.
I think so. That's where I was looking there, as I say, in terms of a complete lack of competition at the weekend, Shug. Rangers had the best of the first 7 or 8 minutes, would you say? And then from there on in, Celtic, I don't think they got a second gear. And the reaction of certain Rangers fans after the game towards some of the players is the first time I've seen that kind of venom, I think, coming from supporters. and it was probably merited in as much as Rangers badly let down their support last week.
100% they did, but I still don't like to see that. I don't like to see,
No.
I've seen a few clips where the guy's standing shouting "Tavernier, where are you?" and I'm thinking, wait a wee minute, mate. Go back and get your DHS paycheck. On you go. Just go and get a life. They don't want to go out there and get beat. They don't want to go out and make a bad performance, but they did. And I think for Rangers fans, they've got to look at Philip Clement because he must be on Deludamol. That's what he must be drinking. If we scored this, we scored that, but the 2 goals that you should have scored were offside, so they wouldn't have counted in the first place.
No.
So have a look back at there, Philip. As you say, Cammy, 8 to 10 minutes, I think Rangers looked good, but the goal that Celtic got that was chopped off for offside, I think it just honestly frightened Rangers. They just went into a shell. Then, as you say, Celtic, second or third gear, at max they were. Passing the ball about. You can see the difference in players, and I said this on here as well with Kyogo. The guy never stops. They're winning 3-0, and he's trying to shut down a goalkeeper in the 85th minute or something like that. You're winning the game. Why do you want to run away back to go and chase a ball? Just stay where you are instead of doing it. That's the difference. It's players that want it more. Nothing down to talent. Well, possibly it's down to talent, but the players that want it more, fight and desire, should always win over talent because you want it more. Rangers in trouble. I've seen them obviously at Hampden first game of the season with us, and they look good for the first 40 odd minutes. But if that's Celtic in second or third gear and they've still got their signing stick in, I think they've actually signed well. I think they've done the best transfer window in a lot of years. And Rangers are seriously struggling. On loan players for here, on loan players for there. And Proper isn't a proper defender. He will struggle big time in this league. He's just way out, a rabbit in the headlights, I think, for Proper anyway. They will struggle. The best defender at the bench in Balogun.
Aye, that's it. They definitely didn't look on the game at all last week, Dennis. And you on Friday night last week were quite critical, I think, of Greg Taylor, Celtic left back. I thought Greg Taylor was exceptional on Saturday. Sunday. I thought he looked good. And he's maybe somebody who needs a wee bit of push there to behind in terms of competition, but he looked decent. And if that's going to be the stand-in of the replacement left back, Celtic have got this league won already.
Well, see when you look at that, and we're then just drifting back for a minute, right? Okay. I'm looking then at saying to myself, where is Greg Taylor when it comes to the Scotland squad?
Behind Andy Robertson.
No, but see, if you look at it, yes, last week I thought deficient, but here's your issue. If you take Ralston out of the back four and you put Taylor on that side, you might get away with it. If he's in form, which he was last week, or you find that you put Robertson into the middle of the park, you can do a lot of things, but you've not got Taylor there.
No.
So, again, if you're looking at filling a jersey with people in form, which the boy obviously was at the weekend, he would have been fired up to go with that Scotland squad. And you're right, he did have a good game. But I still don't think the amount of games that you got off Greg Taylor is enough to merit him a regular place. And that's the reason why Celtic have gone out and bought a left back, because it's seen that he's not going to be there as a regular, I don't think.
Shog, after that game last week, I'm sitting there thinking Celtic could actually do something in Europe, you know what I mean? They could compete, they're looking decent, they're looking good. And then I looked across the other side of the park and saw who they were playing. And for long enough, Rangers and Celtic were both criticised or said that they couldn't do anything in Europe because of the standard of opposition they had. Celtic now are up against that in terms of the standard of opposition they have, just isn't there even from Rangers.
You're right. Somebody got asked a question the other day, and I only heard it on the radio when I was driving. The guy, there's a Celtic supporter, says, "Do you need a strong Rangers?" And he says, "Why do we need a strong Rangers? They should really." He says, "We need to worry about ourselves," which they do.
Yeah.
But you do want a strong Celtic and Rangers to compete in the league, and hopefully that encourages teams like Aberdeen, who's come back again this season Hearts as well, who's had a dreadful season. Teams like Dundee United. I'm even going down to Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Hibs. Teams need to progress. And if Celtic's running away with it, as they, I would honestly say 5-6 years, forget it. Just give them a league title. Because I don't even think Rangers can spend money, and even if they did, they would nowhere near them. We do need strong Old Firm teams for definite, especially for European football as well. On the European stage, I think Celtic might do something a bit different this year. As I said, I think their signings are going to help them. We want it for the coefficient, but as I've said previously on here, other teams in Scotland need to put in their wee bit as well, not just the Celtic Rangers.
We need it for that coefficient, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, there's no getting away from it. Internationally, we've touched on it already, or sort of went into it in great detail. If we want to be competing in Europe at any kind of level, we are going to need that coefficient improved, and it is going to take, I think, Celtic over the next number of years. Like, I think Rangers' record of league titles, irrespective of the jokes that they play in one another and everything else, you know, but it's the Rangers have only won one title and everything else, you know. I think Celtic are going to go in and set a new mark, obviously, for the years to come now, but Rangers are going to have to try and catch in terms of obviously league titles won, you know.
Where do you start with this Rangers team, though? I mean, Celtic have done their business good, because one of the things, and I've listened to a couple of programmes recently or news, seems to be the downfall of Rangers. But what you're not hearing is it's almost like an acceptance how good Celtic are and how they've improved. Brendan Rodgers, the litmus test for him, in my eyes, is Europe. He's not come up against anything yet. So let's see after these ties that he's got in Europe, how he comes out the other end. Because if you win the league, you, in the way that what Celtic's ended up with is a barrel load of money that doesn't get you the equivalent of what you get in England, but it should be good enough if you're scouting for the right players to get you through the qualifier of the Champions League. Now, I know the goalposts have moved in the structure for that this year, but I would say that a good performance, which has been poor with the Old Firm in recent years, certainly in the Champions League, is something that Celtic should be judged on. It's a bit like Rangers playing Ross County. You don't judge Rangers on that game. And I'm a bit just now thinking I'm not judging Celtic on beating Rangers the way they did. No, because the goal is almost the same at this moment in time. The money that Celtic's got against what Rangers have got, your expectations have got to be higher. The same as Rangers playing Ross County. There's a gulf there, right? So let's look at it and say to ourselves, what did Celtic bring to the party? They brought stability, enthusiasm, fitness, worked on everything that was required in a normal football match. Not just looking down through divisions. The way they played the game is with people working their socks off. Fitness levels was 10 times higher in my eyes than what Rangers were. Rangers just looked lethargic, as if they had never done a training session in their life. Players not knowing where to go, no actually shuffling across. I look at defenders, and if you're down the one side, your team moves all across and you swivel things round and you work that way. So you're working with your shape and the discipline in that all the time. Rangers had none of that. And I'm thinking, what's this guy bringing to the party? You know, he's signed these players. The players that are in there are the new managers, the Clements. They're nobody else's. And he's in the position there that they can cry all they want about not having the money that Celtic's got. But you've got to really start now looking at the top and say, how does this get fixed? I'll tell you what, I've listened to a few people and nobody's come up with a solution. But what you need to do is start looking at the top and who employed the manager, what kind of scouting system they got, what kind of agents are they dealing with that just bumps off some of the rubbish that has went to Ibrox as if they're an easy touch. The boy Ross Will contributed.
I was just about to say that, Dennis. See, if you go and how look both clubs have been ran. You go and look at Celtic, the transfers they've done this season, the players they've sold, the players they've brought in. I think they're about 5.5, 6 million profit on player sales. Mm-hmm. So it's somebody's paid them 5.5 million and gave them some players and took some off them. Rangers are £4 million down, and you go look at the players they get rid of. Well, the Cantwell situation, a couple $100,000. A few others, Scott Wright as well. You think who's running the club.
But you've got to look at who brings them in. My belief.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Dennis. Who's running it? Who's actually dealing?
If you go back to Ross Wilson's days, now I know where Ross go for his Falkirk days, and I'm not going to knock him, but his credentials in real terms of working with a club at Ibrox is a million miles away from what I knew as a wee guy. He originally turned up at Falkirk and says, I'll run the manager about, which was Yogi Hughes at the time. And that's how it started. And then you find out he's down in Southampton, he gets a nugget with Big Van Dijk, and his career's lifted off. And I say to myself, Rangers brought him in, but he wasn't a football guy that knew the ins and outs of Scottish football that was going to bring some talent into there. And the point I'm finishing off with that is really, you can't buy players in or bring them in that's dead money. And Rangers have been doing that. And that's the point you're making, Shug. The ones that are going out the door have cost them money. What Celtic are doing is the ones that are going out the door, they're capitalising on it. So you can't bring in, at any club in my eyes, players are dead money unless you have the luxury of being like Chelsea or whatever else. We don't have that in Scotland. You've got to make sure that player, if he goes out the door or he doesn't fit your team, you have got a return for him. Rangers have not done that in years.
I think it's the first time ever we've compared Celtic to Brentford. But I mean, that's exactly what they're doing down south, and they've got to the holy grail of the Premier League down south, by doing exactly that, bringing players in cheap and selling them on at good profits. And Celtic have realised it's the only way they're going to sustain any kind of level of challenge in Europe or muster any challenge in Europe. And as you say, Rangers are just throwing good money after bad continually, and have been for a number of years. They haven't learned for the mistakes they made, goodness knows how many years ago now, and they're just continually repeating these mistakes time after time, manager after manager. And it can't always be the manager. It must be something who's, I think they need to look higher up, Shug.
Oh, well, that's what I say. You've got to look who's running it, who's making decisions, who's signing. Because as Dennis said there, the player recruitment is massive, and Celtic's now started to get it right over the last few years or so. Whereas before they were similar to Rangers, but they've now got it right. They're now a selling club, and I think they've now realised that we need to sell to get the money in, because you can't be guaranteed Champions League every year. Rangers have always, in my opinion, bought success for David Murray's days, and they haven't learned. As you say, they have not learned. They went down to the third division 2012, and what was the first thing they'd done? They're paying guys £3,000 and £4,000 a week. You're in the third division. These guys don't even make that a month, and you're paying them a week. So they've not learned their lesson. They've been buying success. I mean, I had Lee Wallace. I think still owe money for Hearts for Lee Wallace, but and that's the issue. The players they're bringing in just now are too old. If you go and look at it, I think one of the players they brought in there's 28-year-old. What? And they've given him a 5-year deal. What are you going to do in 5 years? You're not going to get any money back for the guy.
No.
Is that Kearney? Cerny?
Yeah. You're like, what? And he's injury prone. If you go and look at his record, 28-year-old, 4 or 5 year contract. So he's in his mid-30s by the time you want to go and try.
The resale value's not there.
Yeah, you're not getting. Whereas Celtic done the thing when they brought in, can't remember his name now. I've lost it. Phew.
Riley.
Yeah,
Riley. Yeah.
$1.5 million. Everybody says it's a gamble. No £25 million latest, no, is it?
Yeah.
They've done that with numerous players. That's not the first. They've done it with numerous players. The thing you've got, though, is I can't see Rangers short-term getting out of the hole they're in, and it is a hole, because most Rangers supporters are only interested in that one thing. The Holy Grail is beating Celtic and winning the league. End of story. Nothing. That result doesn't. They've got Dundee United after the international break, and I'll tell you what, they will be looking for scalps if Rangers don't get the 3 points out there, and the next game. And the only thing I would say that the board of directors got out of jail with last weekend was that the game wasn't at Ibrox, because there would have been absolute mayhem if Celtic had gone there, beaten them 3-0 with a packed house of Rangers supporters only. and that board of directors would have needed escorted to their cars. And that's where I think you need to start. You've got to look at it right from the top and say, who's making decisions? What is their 5-year plan? Who's injecting money into it? Who are they dealing with that's actually deciding the quality of players that's coming in here? How is Murray Park being utilised to the fact that youngsters are being brought through? What qualities has the manager got that basically says that was embarrassing against Celtic and we have just given him a year's extension and on his salary rate, a £2.75 million, where I brought in at least 2 decent players if you've scouted properly. So there's a whole load of things that before you even get to the manager that need addressed. And you just look at that performance on Sunday and you can see it's riddled with flaws.
I think they get off with it, even not been at Ibrox. I think they've got off it because the international break.
Yeah.
Well,
if it
still
wasn't
again, you look at
international,
Dundee United. That's
yeah,
still got
that's what I'm
some
saying.
room the corner.
If it was a back to, if they were maybe on the Sunday, then a back out again with Dundee United the Saturday, that's 6 days to change something, and the fans will still be. I think the couple of week break has helped Rangers big time just now.
Yeah,
Possibly. The only problem, Dennis, with what you're saying, in terms obviously wholesale change, looking at what's going wrong, etc. Jim Ratcliffe just went to Manchester United to do exactly that kind of thing. That's what Rangers need done, and as I say, they've just lost the chance at a guy who's invested a hell of a lot of money down at Manchester United. Rangers are going to need somebody to come in and invest. They're also going to need somebody to look at the football operations. And these guys just aren't out there to chuck good money at bad at Scottish football just now. That's the problem.
Well, the thing is, you can put an advert in the Chinese press, billionaire with an ego trip, please come and join us. Because I'll tell you
Mullow
what.
tried that with a video. Did you not see Mullow's video?
No.
Yeah,
they did do that. That's right. Well, no, but on a serious note, you know, I don't know what power they want to hold on to at Ibrox, but for the better of the club, there's got to be billionaires out there. They've done it at Leicester. They've done it at Man City. They've done it throughout Newcastle, everywhere. Now, it's a good product to sell. It's Rangers. They are one of the biggest supported teams in the world. So you've got to look at it and say, wait a minute, are we just sitting here for our own glory in this boardroom?
Yep.
That's what directors are doing.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They don't want to let go of their control. And until they're waking up, open the door, let the fresh air in, that club is not going to go anywhere. And the big house, as some of them call it, will be rotting away. And that's all I can see at this moment in time.
I actually think they're going to liquidation again. I can see them being liquidated again.
Well, I don't know if we can go to that extreme, but I'll tell you what, you can address it before that happens. You start to look and say, right, we're not well enough equipped. We've shown that we can't get this club to compete against Celtic, which is number one. Where do we go to get this? And to me, that would be my thoughts in how you go about it. You try and then you really get Celtic under the cosh, because the bottom line is you brought in money, and that's what makes that game tick.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the old firms that are pretty much analysed here. Dennis, obviously we've got some Scottish football, Scottish Cup fixtures, I think, over the weekend, this weekend again as well, have we?
I don't think so, no. I think
that was last weekend, wasn't it?
A couple of weeks ago,
but bear in mind, mate, I'm completely lost. I don't know what I'm doing over here, so... all I can remember is Clyde get gubbed at the weekend. So that's pretty much it. But obviously looking at some of the results of the weekend, obviously we had the Old Firm results. Dennis, anything else catch your eye? What happened last weekend? Anything else you can remember? Because I can't much remember much.
Well, if you look at your Scottish Cup, as you say, it was the second round, a preliminary round, and just picking out a few results. Cooper beat Wigton 4-0. Pollock surprisingly went down 3-1 to Darvel. Then you go down, and the team that seems to be doing really well now is Clydebank. They win 7-0 against St Andrews. Camelin Juniors beat Coldstream away from home 6-0. A million ties here. Hillabeath.
Don't get them all.
No, I'm just picking out 3 or 4. Hillabeath went all the way up to Fort William and beat them 8-0. So, just looking at another couple. There's quite a few high scores, all up around about 3, 4, and 9. Who was that 9? So, but that's there's another tie coming up, Cammy, which is on the 28th of September, where you've got some of the likes of Albion Rovers, Cowdenbeath and people like that in there for that round.
Yeah.
So it's due to come up. But it wasn't something that I actually followed a great deal. Girvan beat St Cuthbert's 9-0. So there you are. That's your Scottish Cup.
Aye, pretty much that was us.
Yeah.
Obviously, league events, guys. What we're going to do is anything that catches our eyes, rather than running through the results. I think everybody knows 6 days ago there's not much point in us running through results. But obviously, like I said, we'll analyse the Old Firm games and weeks going ahead or weeks moving forward. Next week, obviously, I think we've got Barry Young on the show. Barry, St Mirren fan, he's going to fill in, etc. while I'm over here, but I'll obviously still be hosting it. But next week's show will be done live on a Thursday. Otherwise, you'll not get a show because I'll be in an airport at this time next Friday, guys.
That's right, airport.
Interaction for the
Someone did it
airport.
for a balcony show. Yes. Have you been in Las Palmas Airport?
Aye.
It's been Friday in a podcast for in there.
So's McKenna.
Aye, exactly. Last time, 2 years ago, I was here. I was at a game. Obviously, McKenna wasn't playing then, but it was one of the worst games I've been at, other than last Saturday at Bayview, or New Bayview. And it was blooming cold there last week as well. Forgetting just how windy that stadium is. Mind how windy the old Broadwood used to be. But Christ, that was frozen last week up there at that one.
Well, I passed the Clyde bus going as I was going up to St Andrews, and I passed it in the road up just outside Methil. And
I stopped it.
I didn't know the score at that point, Cammy. But I could see a
Was
few
it no a car?
window. Anyway, some people won't know the score in that, right?
Right.
To let you know, East Fife beat Clyde 5-1.
5-1, yeah.
5-1.
Yeah. So if you look at, I know we're jumping a few leagues and we're just picking them up as we are. We spoke last week about the potential of points that Clyde could pick up. And that to me was no one of the next 4 games or to the end of September that I'd penciled in when we discussed that. So you maybe just take that as a hit and move on. And I think maybe that's what you've got to do is that say, right, okay, because you felt you had good players, you weren't sure about the manager, but we assumed he was good. So the bottom line is you'll turn the corner. Now, were they capable last week or have they just gone down the toilet, Cammy?
I think there's an element there that kind of gone down the toilet, I'll be honest. You have to remember Clyde were favourites for that league, or at the start of the season were favourites for that league. They've got the biggest budget by a considerable margin, I'm led to believe, within that league. What they don't have is Dick Campbell. Now, Dick Campbell last week in charge of East Fife, he knew exactly how to play the conditions. He knew exactly how to play Clyde's weaknesses, and Clyde did not have a sniff in that game. They weren't in the game at all. And 5-1, as I said at the start, it really did kind of almost flatter Clyde to an extent. Outplayed, outfought, outthought in every single department last week. And as I say, as a Clyde fan, to a degree, but certainly I was there supporting Clyde, that's for sure. And Clyde are my Scottish team, even though I've not been watching Scottish football for a number of years. But that last week was as embarrassing a performance, I think, as you'll see in quite some time from a Clyde side. At least I would like to think so. I know they've got a trip to Peterhead coming up. Nick, I thought I was going to get away from having to go to a game this week, but obviously I do, but it's international break, so I actually don't miss a Clyde game while I'm over here, believe it or not. So as I say, next week it's at home to Edinburgh City, a game they have to win. You know, there's no getting away from that. But as I say, I can sit here and slaughter my team. We're looking at the man on the other screen next to mine, Shug. His Motherwell side, on the other hand, on the back of 2 good wins, Hearts and St Johnstone, Shug.
Hearts been the massive game. Then what can I say about the 95th minute winner again? El Moses seems to come up with him. I think that's his 5th one he's had. Over the 97 minute, and 95th, and 2 94s and 93rd. You think, where's he getting it from? Yeah, 2 big games for us, especially with the way he started. Didn't start that good this season. But the Hearts performance was the performance of the season. Even probably for performance at the end of last year. Just absolutely massive. Played them off the park, ran riot, and I was glad it was Gray Gordon was in goals. Because I wanted him shot sometimes. The one that hit his face, you never knew about, and he put off probably 2 or 3 brilliant saves, but he didn't have that good a game apart from these saves. He was caught all the time, caught nothing. So I was actually glad. If it was Xander Clarke, I would have went up and spoke to him where he stays. Good. Would you put Clyde down to then, Cam? Would you put that down to your manager? Do you put that down to Dick Campbell being a wee bit more experienced, or?
On Saturday, I definitely put it down to Dick Campbell playing the conditions. You know, it was breezy, it was windy. First half, East Fife just played the conditions. You know, they had the wind at their back, and pretty much, as I say, they did just play the conditions. Looked better going forward. Austin up front, just he hit the 3rd goal. Lovely finish. You knew it was in the minute it left his foot. 2 sloppy defensive errors led to Clyde's East Fife's first 2 goals, and then they were chasing the game a wee bit. I think if Clyde get an early goal in the second half, you're saying, right, okay, they're back in with a shout, but it just didn't look like it. And you know what he's like at that level. Dick Campbell, he's great at that level, and I don't think there's any coincidence that Dick's had more success at Arbroath and East Fife possibly than anywhere else, where he's got the conditions where he can play, you know. His style of football. Yeah. He's not a manager that gets the ball down and plays good football, is he, really?
Now, seeing the back of that, if you look at the next game that Clyde's got, I take it as Edinburgh City, is that right?
Edinburgh City, yeah.
And then after that, you've got Elgin. Now, the point I was making last week is they are games that you would expect to win. So that gives you 6 points. And then you've got Peterhead, which would be a difficult one, a bit like East Fife. So if you get 6 out of the next 3 games, that takes you to 10 points. You're up into 4th spot. So you're right.
Every other team doesn't win again.
Yeah, well, you've got to assume that they don't. That's how you look at it. So the thing I'm thinking about is, and you touched on it very briefly, is the gap with Rangers coming off the back of having time where they're not playing anything until Saturday the 14th or Sunday, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why the lower divisions seem to be vacant for the few weeks that the international squad's away?
No idea. I was actually just thinking that would have been a topic to debate tonight in terms of has the international games came too early. You know, I mean, we've had 2 breaks already in terms of from league football, in terms of with the League Cup, and now we get the international break, and that's obviously across the board. Is that possibly a reason why Scotland are struggling? You know, the international breaks came too early. They've not had a chance to gel, get over the Euros.
Well, you find that games in the middle of winter then try and fill that gap for, you know, the couple of weeks that there's been games missing. And I still don't believe that when you look at how many players are in that Scotland squad from Scotland, I think you could have every team still playing in between. Take the old firm out of it. The bottom line is, I don't see there's a requirement here for the lower divisions to be actually vacant and not playing when the internationals are on. Because any momentum you've got now, if you look at East Fife as an example, by the way, I want to be playing the following week. I don't want any interruptions. I don't want nothing. I want to be in the position that when we go to Stranraer the 14th of September, I want that to be on the 7th of September, not the 14th.
Yeah.
And that is what would annoy me, or does annoy me, when you have a break that has got no significance whatsoever to the lower divisions.
Yeah, 100%.
Dennis, I didn't want Mull to have a break either, having two fantastic results.
2 wins
I think.
back.
Back to back. I mean, they would go and do that, and now we're on the back in international break. So momentum, as you say, is lost a wee bit.
I think, if you have a Premier League team and you have more than one player taking out your team, then you have a cancellation. Right? So in other words, when the Scotland manager announces his internationals and you have more than one player out your team, then your game can be cancelled. It's not any different when you look at the African nations, which is played at a strange time, and in England you see them all disappearing from down south. It's not any different.
Copa America.
Yeah, but if you look at it, we have vacant weeks now when the weather is half decent, that we'll probably find that midweek fixtures at some point or another will need to be thrown in the middle of winter. So why have we got vacant week? I don't think there's any need for it whatsoever.
See the lower divisions, as you're saying, Dennis, if they get the same limit, I know Premier League teams, etc., if they lose so many players, it gets postponed or gets rearranged. Is that the same in the lower leagues? If they...
Well, who's going to be in the lower leagues that are going to play with Scotland?
Well, you may get some players for the Championship. I don't know, going to... How can I say, Zimbabwe or something like that? I don't know. I'm just.
I was never in a position to have any player that was capable of being an international. So I've never had to come across that. But what I'm thinking is, when you look at the permutations, some teams might want a rest. Cammy, does Clyde need a rest? You might say, on the back of that defeat. Yeah, maybe no. You want to get out the traps.
You want that. To me, you want that. To me, after a result like that, you want to play. You know, you want to play and get that out your system. It's like yourself saying about Motherwell. You want to keep playing because you've hit that wee bit of
you've got a wee bit of momentum back. You've got a bit of confidence in there. You want to keep going. But I don't know whether the lower league teams then, Dennis, maybe have young players that go to maybe the 21s or the 17s or something like that. I don't know.
Again, how many, and even if you take the first and second division, never mind the Championship, you see, what I've got a feeling may well be is you have a lot of league committee people that are on the boards of the clubs.
They want to get away.
They've got all their tickets for the internationals, so therefore they go with the Tartan rugby grade and away they go. So therefore it's in their better interest because they can then be sitting either in Portugal with the Scotland team, and they're not missing anything with their home clubs.
I know I've made reference to it a couple of times in terms, obviously, being on holiday and catching a game of football. As I say, 2 years ago, I was over here and Las Palmas played on the Friday night of an international break weekend, and Las Palmas were in the second level at the time of Spanish football. So it's not something that's unilateral across the board in other countries.
I don't understand why we do it. I really,
I just find it's a void that we can well do without, and it's just a point.
100%. Right, one thing before we quickly finish off. I've got a couple of pints crying out my name on it, and I've got a meal somewhere to go and have as well. So sunbathing's done for the. I know sunbathing's done for the day. But I see Sky Sports this afternoon. We're having a debate as to the best manager the English Premier League's produced, and I think obviously it's a toss-up between Fergie and Guardiola. I think because he's going for his 5th straight title this year. Dennis, I think you're probably of the same opinion as me, but we'll start with yourself, Shug. Which of the two is the better manager, Guardiola or Ferguson?
Bob Paisley.
Fair enough.
You go look what he won in so many years.
Fair point. Yeah. What was Paisley? This is again, you're talking about the Premier League rather than the top league in England. You know what I mean? The debate today
it was the top league
Premier
in England
League manager,
won, wasn't it? It was the top league in England at the time he won.
I know.
So Fergie or Guardiola?
Well, if you're throwing Paisley in, let's say the best top league manager down south, then you're going Paisley.
I would go Bob Paisley, just for what he'd done in so many years. That's
fair enough. No, fair play. Dennis?
You always ask questions that I've never got a straight yes or no with.
I know. But bear in mind, we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. So come on.
You've had only 10 minutes to think about this.
No, you don't need time to think about it. You need time to think of the answer. The thing about it is, if you look at it, it's different eras. Guardiola and Ferguson, two different eras. Yeah. You think Guardiola has the same management skills as Alex Ferguson, where he would have players up against the wall and have them shaking with fear. The players would walk out on them now and think, I'll get a handout here, I'll get 20 million in my back pocket. We haven't played here. Yeah. I'll find another club. That didn't happen then. You had fear driven into you with managers of the past. And that's how managers get the best out of some players. That doesn't happen now. What he's got is the luxury of a bank book that says, who do you want? How do you manage them? Well, 9 out of 10 that come to Man City don't need coached because they've already been coached. They're the finished article, and all you need to do is get them moulded into the way you want to play your team. Alex Ferguson didn't have that. Shankly certainly didn't have it. And the ball and pitches they were playing on in Shankly's era, or Jock Stein, or whoever you want to look at, if you take in football managers in general, never mind England, it's a different old game. You look at it now and you take Willie Henderson and Jimmy Johnson. Imagine them in that Old Firm team now, or any of the era of the Celtic and Rangers trying to get into the teams back in the 60s. There's absolutely no chance. The whole game has changed, so the management has to change. There's no way in this planet I would get a manager's job because mine's is old school. And there's a whole different way now that you approach things because kids are brought up now, you can hardly raise your voice to them, but they go away and into a shell and all the rest of it, and there'll be some complaint, he's got a sore back. No, they're just no made of what they used to be. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing because the Jim McLean era wasn't my liking at all, right? But getting the balance in between that is still totally different with today's players.
Yeah.
And the further up the tree you go, the harder it is to judge whether that manager's good, bad, or indifferent. And I think you need to have a good manner. And, I've listened to some managers and I've said to myself, wow, that's a wee bit over the top. Then I've listened to managers that actually think, I would have terrorised him. And they just roll over.
Yeah.
Just roll over. And there's teams, and an example is, I'll give you one because I'm friendly with Billy Reid that was down at Chelsea. I said to him after Chelsea's players when they performed, I went, Billy, does Graham Potter go into that dressing room and run riot with them? No. Yeah. Conversation, no raised voices, nothing. Right? And that's where the game's changed.
Yeah.
So the answer is, I can't answer it. I can't answer it.
Fair enough, no problem. I'm going to say Ferguson, certainly over Guardiola. I get the Bob Paisley thing, and I completely respect it. But I'm going to say Ferguson just based on the fact that he did it over 25 years.
Oh, I think Ferguson.
I think it's easy to do it. Easier if you're Guardiola.
Fergus.
They win it. Yeah.
I got consistent all the time, but as Dennis says, with the money back behind you. But what Dennis was saying there in the past, I prefer getting brought up my generation as a footballer than what I would do now. Because now, I believe it's a tick box now. Or you can pass, or you can run, or you can do this right. You're in that wee, you stay in that wee section. Whereas before, used to know, you worked your backside off to actually get it. You ran. I remember running beaches, running up hills for a full pre-season. That's what you done. I remember going to Tenerife 1 week, then Blackpool the next week. So Lambie could race his pigeons.
How many managers now actually go and scout their own players?
Oh, that's what I'm trying to say. There's none, Dennis. That's why I prefer it back then. Because I think back then you get true footballers, true players.
You see what you were getting instead of a video clip that some agents try to come in and offload you because he's got a massive percentage in the back of it. And that's a disappointing thing. It's run by financial people now rather than the actual supporters getting real benefit. Yeah. But to me,
working class.
the two you've mentioned, Yeah, the two you've mentioned are excellent. There's no doubt about it. And all the people you mentioned there as managers were outstanding. So to me, I'm not picking at one, but there is a reason that they're all up there. They were all
Dennis,
successful.
there's a question for you, Dennis. Quick one before I know we want to finish. Who was your backroom staff? How many backroom staff did you have? You had yourself, maybe your assistant,
Yeah,
maybe your physio.
yeah.
Don't get
Possibly
started,
maybe
assistant.
I know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
possibly
I know.
coach. Guardiola's get like 4 physios,
Yeah.
10 coaches, a sports psychologist, a
Shug,
nutritionist. This is
See
the
when-
difference.
see when they won the league 2 years ago, they were all paraded out into the park.
No, did you
And
see
I
them all?
counted them. There was 42.
Aye.
42 people. Right?
Well, look at Man United. Man United are making 250 staff redundant. You know, okay, I know they're not all backroom staff, but football clubs nowadays are big business.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about. I mean, that the two of you know I follow American football, and I mean they've got coaches for. You know, they've got all sorts of coaches coming out their ears. 42 wouldn't even touch it in terms of what they've got in an American football staff.
Oh.
You know, but
Dennis probably never had a first team and a reserve team, and there was 42 in it.
aye.
But they came out with all.
Well, the
coaches
period
and
I
this
was
one
at
and that.
Albion Rovers, when I was doing the youths and the reserves, we had a youth set up that some broke into the team. And that was actually very good for the time and period I was there, and before and after. And there was an element there where that was working. But financially, it's not viable for a club as small as that. So
No.
then they've done away with reserve football, which is for another night, because obviously we went on quite a bit. But there's a whole way how you progress. Anyway, I get the picture, Cammy. I'm going.
Guys, thanks as always. That music seems to have stopped, but hey, thank you very much to the two of you. As I say, I've got a couple of pints with my name on them somewhere. I've got a meal, something else. I've got a wise champ at the bit to say, come on, we're going out. So, guys, thanks very much. Chubb, thanks for stepping in tonight.
Yes.
Dennis,
no
thank
problem.
you very much. Remember, if you're listening tonight, it's next Thursday we'll have the live stream at the same time. So next Thursday at 6 o'clock. By that time, we'll have league football to talk about again. Guys, thanks very much. I'm just going to end things now. Cheers, Chubb. Cheers now. Bye-bye. Bye.